Greetings, everyone, and thanks for joining today for our newest session, Getting the Most Out of Your Modus Files. My name is Patrick Higaki. I do sales and marketing here at Modus as well as partnerships. Joining me today is Riley from our client services team and Ken Bruick, one of our co-founders. We're going to dive right into this. I'm actually going to mute my mic and probably turn off my camera because I am under the weather, so I'll be coughing a lot. But Ken is going to steer the ship in the right direction. So Ken, please take it away.
Thank you. All right, so today assumes that you have at least a baseline familiarity with Modus, and we're going to walk through pretty quickly 4 different sections. We'll go through some of the options in photo mode, then 360 mode, and then we'll jump back to the launcher and look at some of the options that are available there. Then we'll generate some line drawings and then finish with the least exciting of all, bill of materials. That way, if we run out of time, we can chop that off pretty quickly. So I'll just jump right in. This is a project that Patrick made some time ago. And to get started, we're going to look at some of the settings that are available in photo mode. So I'm going to switch over to that really quickly. And in previous webinars, we've covered this, but we're changing some of the format here. So if this is a review, I'm sorry. Now, just like the viewport, photo mode has its own quality render settings. If you're on a half decent machine, I recommend keeping this all the way up to cinematic. With cinematic, you're going to get the best quality reflections and shadows. But if your renders are taking too long, you could drop that down to ultra or even very high, and you won't see too much of a quality loss. Format is where you can set the file format of the end render. However, we just recently discovered a bug in the 2.0 release where it always outputs to PNG. So just be aware that until the 2.1 release coming this summer, your images are always going to export as PNG. Really sorry about that. And then the last two here are stability settings. So if you're on a lower end machine in particular, and you're having some stability issues when you render, these are some really good knobs and dials to play with. So chunk size is a way to break up the rendering process into smaller pieces. This doesn't affect the final quality of the render image, but what it does is it makes it smaller effort for your computer. So if your computer's getting overwhelmed and crashing, you can reduce the chunk size. The downside, though, is it makes your renders take longer. So if you're on a higher end PC, keep this cranked all the way up. Lower end machines like a business class laptop, you're going to want to bring that all the way down. And use system RAM when available. This is really there again for those lower end machines. If your graphics card does not have a lot of video RAM or VRAM for short, you might crash while rendering. And so enabling this, once again, will make renders take longer, but it will often give you greater stability on those lower end machines. So a lot of times we recommend just cranking these all the way up and kind of finding the limit of your machine. But sometimes your project complexity will also impact that as well. Okay, so let's actually get into generating the renders and some options that you have once you're in photo mode. Oh, and as an aside, if you have any questions or anything, please just ask them as they come about, and Riley will interrupt me, and then I'll stop every now and then as well to see if we have any questions. Okay, so the first thing that is we often get a lot of questions on is this fly versus walk. So fly is the same thing that you have in design mode when you have space and shift to go up and down. As you look up or down, you kind of fly in that direction. Walk will anchor you to the ground at I think a 5'10" person eye level. So even if I'm looking up or down, I always stay at that same height. Now, an important disclaimer here, this is a very primitive way of doing this. We just keep you locked at a certain elevation in the world. So if we have like an obstacle on the ground, that maybe looks like it would be a step or a platform, when you are in walk mode, you'll just plow right through those. So you stay at that same elevation. So walk mode is not great for going upstairs or viewing a second floor or balcony or anything like that. We hope to revisit that someday, but for today, that's how that works. All right, so while you're in photo mode, there's a couple other really handy things that I want to call out. Um, while you can just navigate over to somebody's seat to get a perspective of what that view would look like, you can also simply click on any seat and you will move to that spot. Same thing with any chair in the room, but also if you click on a camera, you'll jump right into it. And this is a fun little thing that works in design view as well. We added this in the 2.0 release. If you hold your right mouse button, you can pan and tilt just as you would with that camera rather than having to use these, which are a little bit steppy. I don't know the right word. They have increments rather than something smooth. And then while you're doing that, you can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out as well. And then those continue to respect the camera's capabilities. So this particular camera is digital PTZ only. So when I zoom all the way out, you can't see me moving my mouse, but I am. And I'm not able to look around anymore until I zoom in. So that's pretty handy little thing there. Okay, one last thing here. Oh, and also you can select people if you've got like a standing person, which we don't have any in here. So I'll toss one in photo mode. If you click on them, you'll also go to their view. So it's a pretty nice way to quickly generate renders from a certain perspective and keep it consistent during different sessions. One last little tidbit here. So if you've messed around with photo at all, you've probably discovered this animation tab. Simply you set a start point and an end point, and when you start animating the camera, it'll just animate between the two. This is currently the best way to do some type of video. You're going to need to use some third-party software to do a screen capture. We recommend OBS, and we can help you out with that if you reach out to support on some best practices there. But this is how we typically capture all of our videos, so we're not manually moving the camera around. With that said, though, there's one little undocumented tip that I wanted to share. So first, of course, you'd want to press M so that your menu is hidden while you're capturing video. But getting everything timed can be a challenge. And so if you press the R key, it will reset your camera animation back to that initial spot that you placed. So if you are trying to get that perfect shot where you're waiting for the video to do something on the in-world displays, you can press R and then start capturing without having to wait for the entire camera animation to loop back around. So those are the quick and easy tips for Modus Photo. Riley, how are we doing in chat? Do we have any questions or anything we wanted to cover before I move on?
Oh, Kevin just asked something. Any interest in doing crypto matte or multi-matte / alpha matte style render modes? So you could say green screen, subtract outside the windows, or render just certain layers in the outliner.
Yes, to make it easier to do some post-process to replace the background, that type of thing. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, I don't have chat open or visible. Yes, there is interest in doing that. We basically we're waiting for some updates from Epic before we can really do that well. But there are some things we would like to do in the future, like basically alpha matte, where you could separate the scene into different layers. So you could potentially even have like the table and chairs render on one layer, the rest of the room render on another, and then the outside not be rendered at all or something like that. But today, you can, with mixed results, this is a fun little one here. With mixed results, if you change your project environment to be the green screen, if you render this out to PNG rather than JPEG, which right now it'll always do, this will become transparent. It's not perfect though. So sometimes you still have to key out some green bloom that will happen around the edges of things. But that was actually a little byproduct that we didn't even intentionally add. It just happens that way. So that can get you a little bit of the way there, but it's not perfect. We'd like to do a little bit better there. Okay. Let's, oh, I didn't mean to change the mountains. We'll do. Okay. All right, moving on to 360. So 360 has similar walk fly mode, so I'm not going to cover that again. Settings on 360s are ever so slightly different. We still have the same overall quality, and I'm going to have it down a little bit lower just so it'll render faster. And we don't have the options for tiling or paging to system memory. Just the way we do things under the covers is dramatically different. But the one knob we do have is resolution. And so, especially if you're just getting a feel for things, or if this isn't a final 360, setting this to low or medium will dramatically speed up your renders when compared to high resolution. So keep that in mind. Overall, the rest of the quality is the same. It's just high is much higher resolution, so you get much sharper images. So for now, I'm gonna keep it on medium because that'll go fairly quickly on my machine. Just like with photo, you go to a certain spot in the room that you want to generate your 360 from. And once you're in that position, you want to keep in mind the direction you're facing forward is the initial direction your audience will see things when they load this 360. So you want to keep that in mind. And then you can simply press enter or press the 360 button and it'll generate a 360. So after it generates it, it thinks for a moment while it's uploading. And then right here, it'll give you an option to view it, which I've clicked on, but I'm not sharing my screen just yet. Or in the launcher, you can go browse to it. And we'll do that in just a moment. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and pull up this 360 so you can see what it looks like. And I'll reload it so we can see the default position. So it started off looking straight forward, which is how we captured it. And then just by default, it slowly pans to the right until the user interacts with it. There's a couple of things that I have set up on my account that are important to be aware of. The first is an interactive logo in the top right corner. If I middle click on it, it'll take me to our website. And then in the top left, it shows the name. And the name of my project was called Webinar. So not very great, not very pretty or anything. So let's talk about how we change that. So I'm going to close out my browser and I'm going to switch over to the launcher here. So once a 360 is created, it gets posted online. It doesn't live anywhere on your computer, which is why to view them and manage them, you have to go to the 360s tab. And so newly created 360s appear in here. I'm going to select this webinar 360, and we've got a few options on the right. But very first thing, I want to change the name of this. And to do that, you right click and say rename. So we'll just call this Great Webinar, because I feel like that's more descriptive of what we're seeing. Now also, we have these options over here. Perhaps on this one, I don't want to show the title at all, or maybe I don't want to show the logo at all. I'm going to disable show logo, but I'll keep the title showing. And then I'm going to Alt-Tab back to, oh, no, I'll just click View Online again because I apparently closed it. Now when we load it, well, it's still showing the logo, which is a bug that I thought we fixed, but apparently we didn't. Hey, Riley, could you make a note of that? We should be able to change that without pushing an update to Modus. Yep. I set it to not show the logo, and it still is. The important thing here, though, is that it did change the name. And I bet if I turn the name off and reload, there we go. Well, the name correctly hides, so that's good. Okay. But let's say we wanted to change which logo is shown, or we wanted to change the default settings here. To do that, I come to the Launcher Settings, 360 Images, and here's where I can customize just how all of my 360s look in general and the default behavior. So I've selected an image, and we recommend a PNG so it has some transparency. And I actually added some extra padding around the logo here just to offset it from the top right corner. That's something we'd like to do. If you provide a logo, that'll make your image clickable, and it'll open a new tab to take the user there. And then you have the defaults here. So when somebody, when you create a 360, by default, is it showing the title? And by default, is it showing the logo? But that, of course, can be changed on a per 360 basis. Going back to the 360s tab, I want to talk briefly about all of these options over here. So copy to clipboard gives you three options. One is just the URL. So that's the same URL that it takes to if you click the View Online button, but just handy if you want to toss that into an email. The embed code is really nice if you want to toss this into a web page. So it gives you some simple HTML. It's essentially just an iframe that points to this 360. So really handy if you're working on your WordPress site or whatever and want to test something in. And then finally, DTools integration. So if you are using DTools Cloud, their proposal system has an option for entering a Modus 360. And if you hover over it, there are some specific steps you can take to get that working. I'm not going to cover them here. And then finally, this is something we added in the 2.0 release, the download image only. So we have some customers that, for various reasons, want to be able to host their own 360. Sometimes this is for security reasons. They need to put it behind a password. Other times they simply just want to host it on their own domain. Clicking download image only gives you the source image, and it's like a really funky looking image. So it's not something that you would display normally, but when paired with a 360 viewer, it looks quite nice. So I'll pull up and show you what this image looks like. That's what it looks like when you download the image. So you need a viewer to basically wrap that around a 360 viewer in it, or a 360 view, and it'll look really nice. We use something called Panellum. It's open source. It works great, but there are many others that you can use as well. And so if you're interested in hosting your own, but you have no idea where to start, reach out to support, and we'll help get you off your feet there. Okay. Any questions on 360s, Riley, or are we good to move on to line drawings?
We are good to move on.
Okay, great. All right. So line drawings are an interesting one. They don't get as much love and attention as I wish, probably because they are outside of the Modus executable. It's a big part of it. But line drawings are intended to be a great starting point for deeper CAD. We don't really intend for these to be customer facing or client facing in most cases, but it's a great way for the team, your CAD team, to start with something rather than starting from scratch. So to get to line drawings from the launcher, you select your project and click on Docs. This is going to give you two options. One, generate line drawings, or generate a bill of materials. So for now, we're going to do line drawings. And by default, you're presented with this top-down view that shows everything, both floor and ceiling. It's not separated. Generating line drawings is a three-step process. We first will set up our different views and elevations, and then we'll annotate them, and then we generate the drawings. So let's say we wanted to have an elevation for each of the four walls in this room. To do that, I would click the Add View button, and we'll give it a name here. We'll just call it Front Wall. And you get a little preview of this, but if we jump over to the Annotate section, you can see what that is really going to look like. But for now, we'll stay in the Setup Views step. And essentially the way this works is anything that's within this blue box is going to be rendered in an orthographic view. And there are some really important hotkeys here to learn. You can always see these in the tips and tricks section off to the right, but I'm going to close that for now. Just to give a quick overview here, these handles will basically increase the width of that view. The rotate handles, as you might expect, rotate it, or you can grab this arrow to just move it forward and backward, or you can grab the camera itself just to move it around freely. If you hold Control while dragging the camera, it will snap to the closest wall, it will align to that wall, and it will resize itself to fit that wall. So this is a really quick and easy way to get all of your elevations created fast. So if I hold Control and, so if I hold Alt, it'll create a copy. And then if I add Control to that mix, I can very quickly bring in these others. And in just a couple of seconds, I can have all four of my walls created, or all four of my elevations. I'm not going to give all of these names, but if I wanted to, I could just double click it and say left wall or west wall, whatever it's called. Okay, so looking at this,
one question.
Yeah.
Kevin's asking, the 360 image, is it a standard equi-rectangular map?
Equi-rectangular, yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
And it is exactly double, the width is double the height. So it plays very friendly with all of those the bulk of the viewers out there. But yes,
Okay.
equirectangular. Okay. So with these orthographic views, it's really important to keep in mind where the camera is located. If we come over to this annotate view, you can see right now we only have the displays and the credenza and all that stuff, basically just the front wall. But it's often handy to be able to include things like the table, maybe even some chairs so that you can be able to compare the height of everything in the room. And so in this case, I'm going to create a second one. We want to have both. So I'm going to hold Alt and drag this arrow all the way to the back. And at that point now, that view will include all of that. So we can have those two views coexisting. The other nice part about this is since I pulled it back, we also get the microphones that were in the ceiling. But let's say that we're pretty happy with how all of these are set up. Now we can come to the annotate step. This one is really interesting. There's a lot of power here that we don't give a lot of attention to. But the main step here is to be able to add dimensions and comments. So I'm going to click on add dimensions. And as I mouse around, you're going to see we get a green box around these objects. That just represents the bounding box, kind of the same thing that you see when you're working in Modus. And I can draw a dimension line anywhere I want, and that's not super useful. But where this becomes really powerful is when I use the green box, especially its handles, and I draw my dimension line while snapping to one of those. So let's say, for example, these TVs are not actually going to be centered on the wall for some reason. And we really need to know that offset. So I've got this at 4'9", and I'm going to save this. I want to show you something really cool about these dimension lines. So I need to reopen this project. And then for fun, I'm going to move this whole thing over. I'm going to resave it. And I'm going to come back here, pull up my line drawings again, come to annotate. And when we come to this view, it was before it was like 4'9" or something, and now it's 6'8". And so this is a really key part here of the line drawings functionality. When you create a dimension line and it snaps to two different bounding boxes, it maintains that relationship. So if you're making simple adjustments, if you've already gone through setting up your views and you've added dimension lines and comments, and then you have to shuffle things around, in a lot of cases, your dimension lines will just update automatically. And so you're not adding more work to your life. You're actually saving quite a bit. Same thing will happen with notes. You can add a note, accept, and then drag a dimension or drag a line there, and it'll snap to it. So then as those displays move around, the note would move with it. But this system isn't perfect. If you start moving things across different walls and all of that, the dimension lines have no idea what to do. And so you will have to clean that up somewhat. Anyway, so hopefully you would spend a little bit of time giving these good names, adding dimension lines and comments, and then it comes time to generate drawings. One final option here, you don't have to include all of these in the document that you're generating. So we assume you're probably not going to want the floor and ceiling hybrid view. So that is untoggled by default, but you can re-enable that if you want. Then in here, you can change the project name, page size and everything you can change in your line drawing settings elsewhere in the launcher. Anyway, when you're ready, you click Generate Drawings, and it will output a multi-page PDF. So it's a pretty simple, straightforward process. The reason we do PDF, by the way, is PDF still supports vector art, so all of these lines stay nice and sharp, but then we're not completely married to DXF. Like PDF is something that anybody could open, and it is importable even by non-professional software. But those documents all include a dimension line, so it does make importing into AutoCAD or similar software pretty straight and easy. Okay, that's it for line drawings. Any questions on there before we wrap it up with bill of materials? We're on track to be really good with everybody's time, and I am delighted by it. Okay, so to get to bill of materials, select our project, go to docs. Once again, we're still in the launcher, and generate bill of materials. This is a really simple and straightforward process. One of the challenges we have with Modus is a project doesn't just have equipment in it. It might also have plants. It might have architectural elements. And so you're probably not going to want most of those things to show up in your bill of materials. So your very first step here is filtering out the things you want included versus the things you don't want included. The choices you make here do persist. So if you save this and then make some changes in your project, then come back, just like line drawings, those changes will persist. But by default, we try to filter out a lot of things that we're fairly certain you won't want. So decorations, doors, other architectural elements, plants, lights, soffits, vents, those things we assume you don't want. But if for some reason you do want to include them in the bill of materials, maybe like the area rug was a really important part of the discussion and you spent a lot of time getting the size just right. If you want to move it over, you click the check mark and then it is brought over here. Similarly, anything from this side that you don't want, you click the X and it moves over to the excluded objects list. Really straightforward. Now, some of these things are going to have configuration details. Maybe you have selected specific materials or different SKUs or something like that. You can click on any of these and see those specific details that were chosen. We try to filter out things that don't matter, but anything like mounts or materials, we do persist. And of course, it will show you the quantity as well. So just a quick way to get an overview of what's going into this. And then once you're happy with that, you go to the generate bill of materials. This shows you what the data will be formatted like. So when we output this, we're generating a CSV file, and each of these ends up in its own cell. So like all of the description is one cell for this credenza as an example. So when you're happy with it, you generate CSV. I already had one in there, and then it just outputs a very boring, plain looking file that you can open in Excel. You could import into DTools, whatever you need. But pretty straightforward. Especially these last two, line drawings and bill of materials, don't get a lot of use. Hopefully over time we'll be able to add more functionality there to help them be even more useful. And hopefully they will migrate out of the launcher and into the Modus executable over time. But that in 30 minutes, just under 30 minutes, was everything we were hoping to cover on generating deliverables from Modus. Do we have any questions or anything? I do want to do a quick promo for our next webinar, but before then, I want to give the audience a chance to ask questions.
We'll give them a second. We don't have anything yet.
All right, but I do see somebody's typing. In the meantime, on June 10th, so just before InfoComm, we're going to be doing another Blender to Modus workflow webinar. It's going to be pretty similar to the last one we've done. So if you attended that one, you may not get much out of it unless you have specific questions. It is not a how to use Blender tutorial. It is more of what settings and export options in Blender will work best with Modus. So if you already have a light understanding of Blender, this is perfect for you. All right. Okay. I'm seeing a little bit of chatter, but I think we're good there. By again. Yes, in fact, you can see some of our booth behind me right now. You saw it here first, except for the pieces you've seen in previous years. But some of these pieces are new. Great. Well, thanks so much for attending, everybody. Yeah, I think if that's all we've got, Patrick and Riley, anything else we want to add?
Nope. Hopefully we'll see everybody at InfoComm. And like you said, we've got that other training coming up on the 10th. There's a link in chat. And we will definitely be communicating the next group of trainings after InfoComm as well.
Yes. Yeah, please do come see us. We're in a front and center of the show, right next to Sony. So hopefully it will be easy to find. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a
good one.
great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.